Business on top, board shorts on the bottom. Let's get to editing. Today, I'm going to show you how to turn this into this. Okay, let's edit some photos. We are going to pull up a photo, my buddy Nolan, swimming with the fishes. Here's the photo. This was shot on the Sigma Art 14mm 1.8 DG HSM. Photo was shot at 1/5000th of a second, aperture 1.8, and ISO 200. It was shot up on the north shore of Oahu over summertime. But let's get into editing this photo. The first thing we want to do is brighten this photo up a little bit. I like to shoot it underexposed just to save that highlight detail. As we go further, you can kind of see maybe in other shots where that comes into play. A lot of things you want to do underwater is really punching in that contrast. I love that just so you can see all the details in there. In Lightroom, there's these clarity and dehaze sliders. If you play with it just enough, you can get something that works. And that right there already looks pretty dang good just with the dehaze slider. Another thing is the color shift underwater. So all of that blue light, green light really affects the temperature and the tint of your photo. What I'm gonna do is go back up to camera settings and kind of changes tints. So I've kind of noticed the fish are yellow and I want to make them back to that color. And so as you can see here, they're still a little bit green. So I'm going to pump the tint up towards magenta a tad. And as you can see, you're already getting more natural colors. That sand's turning back to that white that it is. And then in the temperature, just right there. I pumped up the heat a little bit, boom. And the before and after. If you guys don't know, in Lightroom, that's the backslash key. You can just keep going back and forth, checking out what it looks like. I love to do that. I probably do it way too much. But here we go. So cropping it in, kind of feel that feels a little bit more right. If you're posting on social media, you can go with the 4:5 crop right there. You know, this photo still looks a little bit dark to me. We want to make it feel warm and summery, so we're going to go into the whites here, pump up the whites a little bit, drop down the blacks, add that contrast back in, and then vibrance, always messing with vibrance a little bit, and saturation, because you don't want to overdo it. Before, after, and I always come back to these all the time. It's just, you're constantly tweaking it, trying to make it look right and get just like the perfect colors, and it's always really tough. This is starting to come through, and we just need to make sure that our watercolor is better. I mean, for a 3-5 minute edit, that's pretty good, and I think we'll call that. It could be better, but for the time we have, we'll leave it at that. Cool, let's get to photo number 2. Okay, here we go. So photo number 2, let's get into it. Join me here. We're gonna be looking at this sweet POV shot I took of my own legs and fins inside the bait ball. Gonna adjust that a little bit, maybe crop some of my big old thigh out of there. Get into doing the same thing we did before. So again, this was shot at the 14mm Sigma Art 1.8. Amazing lens, as you can see. Even when we go to these like distortion settings, it's very minimal to what you would normally see in such a wide angle lens. So now that we have this, we are gonna go ahead and go with a little crop, just center the legs up a little bit more. I like to look in this top left corner. It kind of gives me a good visual of what that photo may look like, where I might lose that on the big screen. This one is pretty close to the surface, so blue light that comes through the water isn't as bad as the first photo we looked at. But we're gonna try to maybe add a little bit more warmth to the photo. So that's up in your temperature slider if you're using Lightroom. We're gonna go into our contrast, add a little bit more contrast. This already looks a little bit bright, but I think once we go into the dehaze slider, just a smidge, it's gonna darken that up a little bit. So I like to personally have all of my highlights shown and underexpose the shot a little bit. So I'm gonna take those highlights, go down a tad, and this is looking pretty good, you know? I think you can just follow along there. Again, the fish are pretty green still, so I'm gonna go back up into my tint slider, play with it, play with the purple, move that over, and again, we're getting a bit more natural tones, warm sands, and the whole shebang. So that looks pretty good. So again, before and after with your backslash key. Before, pretty dull, flat, good, preserved all our details, and then boom, in post right here, we bring it back. We can go into vibrance depending on what you like, and saturation, and really add those back and get that warm tropical feeling that we oh so wish we could have right now and get back in the water. But for now, you guys get to swim into my photo. Now, trick of the trade, if you go up here into the brush tool, we're gonna make that a little bit bigger. And what we can do is really emphasize our fishes. So what I'm gonna do is brush over that, and if you put the O key on, it's gonna show you where your brush is. You can toggle that on and off by hitting O. That's what I know selected, and I just kind of want to add a little bit more texture. So if you see that right there, you can see the fish popping back in. And so the fish are coming in, play with contrast, maybe bump up the whites, but you just got to be really careful with these things, because if you overdo it, it's going to look unrealistic. So you just want to make sure that what you're adding in is subtle. Subtlety is good. So I think that's done, before and after. Bonus photo. I remembered what I want to do, and it's my favorite thing to do underwater, is taking these bait ball photos and making them black and white. So we're gonna see how that looks. Join me on the screen. So our photo is going to be this photo, again, of my buddy Nolan. This 14mm, again, what can I say? It's amazing underwater. This one was at 2.8, 1/4000th of a second, ISO 200. This was pretty dark, but we're gonna see what we can do. So we're gonna take that crop, just really focus in on here, and brighten this up. So just take that exposure, crank it. What I'm gonna do over here is go to my black and white tab and convert that to black and white. And from here, you can kind of go a little crazy. I mean, for me personally, I think just contrast is good. Just having like a really punchy black and white photo. Again, lifting up those whites, pulling down the blacks, and you're really already getting a very iconic look. And you didn't have to do anything. That was, what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 steps. And I think we've already kind of got something that I really enjoy. Ooh. De-haze. It's a dangerous tool, but I really like it. So here we go. Again, highlights. We want to make sure that our blacks aren't too crunched, maybe a little bit, but nothing too extreme. Again, raising the exposure just enough, but not enough that we blow out our highlights. Man, that's pretty good. That's pretty good little noise reduction, because we had to boost it so much. See how that distortion looks. I like the vignetting. It kind of gave it a really good vibe. Distortion, again, not that much on the Sigma 14. You can get the whole scene, and it's pretty good. So let's see, we got before and after, and you know, like, it's easy tactic and it doesn't take long at all. So what you got there, boom, easy, black and white, and we have our 3 images, 2 color images, and our black and white, and we're done. So hopefully you guys enjoyed those tutorials on editing underwater photos. Hopefully everyone is staying healthy and safe, and we will see you guys on the other side of this, hopefully in the water.